Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Ben Crossman, and everyone out there, I hope that you are doing well and you are ready for some computer and technology news because, hey, that is exactly what we have for you. Today's going to be all about computer and tech news as we go ahead and, just enjoy our Friday, have it off. We were actually considering here behind the scenes if we were going to do a show or not, but, we decided, hey, we could at least do this. So everyone, welcome into the program. First things first, computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find anything and everything having to do with the show today. Any articles that we do, any videos that we show, anything and everything that we talk about will be in the show notes later after the program. Also, be sure to check out the live video stream, which can also be found at twitch.tv/computeramerica. And last but not least, go ahead and check out some of the recent articles that we have and more. Now, everyone, with that being said, let's go ahead and get things started here. I hope everyone out there is having great. Hopefully you had a great 4th of July. Everyone came back with all their fingers and toes in check. The family dog is not too neurotic, and you are, you're happy. You're back. You're rested, and you're ready to go. So everyone, here we go. Computer and technology news, brought to you by Computer America. Now, everyone, let's go ahead and get things started here with this first story. And I found this pretty cool. I saw it a couple of places, and this is so high tech that I couldn't just let it sit here. Because it's not really consumer tech, which we try to focus here on the show, but this is certainly high tech. And not only is it high tech, but check this out. It's actually crowdfunded tech. One of our favorite, so often, so many of these technology, so many of the technologies that we hear about are behind patents and licenses, and they're from big companies that are just trying to earn money. And there's really nothing wrong with turning a profit, but at the same time, there's a massive amount of people out there who just simply want to do something cool for the sake of doing something cool. And of course, in this case, the promotion of science. So this is none other than a solar sail. If you've never heard of a solar sail, or in this case, Light Sail 2, this is think of it as like a giant aluminum or tinfoil, sail, like you would find on a ship. But instead of catching the wind, it catches the solar winds. Much like we have winds here on Earth, the sun is actually very good about pushing these massive amounts of energy off. And this spacecraft is designed to catch those and use those to propel itself without any other propulsion, which is really nifty because think about it. If you have a jet like we use to get into space nowadays or get through space nowadays, eventually you would run out of fuel. There's just no gas stations anywhere in space. So what is your answer to that? How do you actually propel something, to the farthest reaches of space? And the answer turns out to be, well, a solar sail. That's the best that we can come up with right now. Now, as I said before, LightSail 2, if you wanted to go Google it, it's a crowd-funded spacecraft currently in orbit that's going to test the performance of a true solar sail that's moved only by the force of photons from the sun bouncing off of its fabric. That's right. The dashboard provides the most up-to-date information available to anyone to check and even download for whatever use they might have for this kind of information. And by the way, the dashboard, if you're watching the video portion, we're going to go ahead and put it up here. It's pretty cool because the dashboard shows everything. It shows that the sail is put away right now, and we're checking this out as we do the show. It's been up for about 3 days and 12 hours. It has an internal temperature of about 6 degrees Celsius, which is about 40 degrees Fahrenheit. About 43. And you can see anything and everything having to do with the sail. You can see its position on the map right here. It's currently over South America, if you're wondering. It's pretty darn cool. And of course, anyone can check it out. Anyone can download all the data that comes off of this. And again, the really cool part about this is that it's set up by a non-profit. This is not NASA. This is not anyone else. This is someone else. Saying it's in deadly keeping with the spirit of LightSail 2, which raised more than $1 million during its Kickstarter crowdfunding campaign. The project, organized and led by Bill Nye's Planetary Society nonprofit organization, saw its second prototype spacecraft launch aboard SpaceX's most recent Falcon Heavy rocket launch. So there you go. That's how it got up there. SpaceX Falcon Heavy. Now, the LightSail 2 mission control dashboard will tell you all the data from the spacecraft and, of course, which is preparing to actually deploy its solar sail for the first time. Visitors can see how long it's been up. You can see temperature and everything that we just went over. And, of course, you can even download it to your own computer if you feel that you have any kind of need for this kind of data. But again, I definitely found that really cool. This is orbiting the Earth. It's not fully deployed yet, but it will be shortly. And you can bet we'll keep an eye out on it. Now, so there's a LightSail. Pretty cool. Let's go ahead and continue on. Plenty of stories. And, I found this one, I really found this one pretty entertaining. Mozilla Firefox. You've probably heard of them for a while there. They were the number one browser. They're number two now, thanks to, of course, Chrome, but they're still a very reputable browser. And even they had a split from their backers, who I'm trying to think who was backing Mozilla. It was a larger organization, but then they split, and Mozilla got more autonomy, which isn't a bad thing. Obviously less resources, but at the same time, more of what they wanted to do. So check this out. The trade and the article actually speaks to UK ISP group names Mozilla an internet villain for supporting domain name services over HTTPS. That's right. We'll get into exactly what that means, but this was pretty funny. This was reported last night, and check this out. This is by Caitlin Kimpanu for Zero Day. Okay. The Trade Association for Internet Service Providers in the UK has nominated Mozilla for this year's award of Internet Villain because of the browser's maker's plans to support the DNS over HTTPS, or DOH for short, protocol in its Firefox browser. Saying in a statement published this week, the Internet Service Provider Association of the UK claimed that Mozilla plans to support DNS over HTTPS in such a way as to bypass UK filtering obligations and parental controls, undermining internet safety standards in the UK. At first glance, that sounds like a bad thing. But when you actually understand what they're saying that Mozilla, the privacy browser, a browser that's really trying to give people's data and privacy back to them, they are suddenly the internet villains for delivering on that promise. They're going to give people away so that their internet search browsers or their internet searches are not filtered or censored in the way that the UK would like. The Trade Association's comments comes after 2 months of constant criticism aimed at both Mozilla and Google from both the UK government and various advocacy groups, and are all centered around the new DOH protocol. Let's go ahead and get into why DOH matters and what it is. So the DNS over HTTPS protocol works by sending DNS requests via an encrypted HTTPS encryption, rather than using the classic plaintext UDP request as classic DNS works. The difference is that besides being encrypted, the DOH protocol also works on the app level rather than the OS level. Very important. Saying that the DOH connections take place between an app, like a browser or mobile app, and a secure DOH-compatible DNS server, or the resolver, which means you're essentially cutting out the middleman. It no longer has to go from... It no longer in terms of like routing and where you're actually going, it never has to actually cycle through your operating system, and there's no log on your computer about it. There's no, if they install any kind of program, it's just one less level where it's simply your browser connected to someone else's server, and everything in between is encrypted and it's end to end, and there's no working the operating system and having essentially a paper trail of where you're going. Saying that all DOH traffic is basically just HTTPS. DOH domain name queries are encrypted and hidden in regular web traffic sent to the DOH and DNS resolver. I apologize for all the abbreviations, but hey, that's what it is. Which then replies with a domain name IP address also in encrypted HTTPS. Saying that as a side effect of the design, this also means that so that each app controls the privacy of its DNS queries and can hardwire a list of DNS over HTTPS servers in its settings and not depend on an operating system's defaults, which would include likely not compatible servers. This protocol design means that users' DNS requests are invisible to third-party observers, such as internet service providers, and all DOH DNS queries and responses are hidden inside a cloud of encrypted connections, indistinguishable from other HTTPS traffic. That's the point. There's no more, really parsing through someone's traffic to see where they're going, where they've been, what they've been doing. No, everything is now just encrypted, and hey, that's great. Except unless you are the UK. Here we go. So in the UK, ISPs are legally forced to block certain types of websites, such as hosting copyright infringing and trademark content. We've talked all about that. That was like Article 13, I believe. The UK trying its best to undermine people sharing copyrighted content and trademark content. The problem is it's just not very effective. And much like YouTube, when you put the effort on the person defending themselves as opposed to those who are making the accusation, things get taken down and the system can be abused for censorship purposes. It's just not a good system overall. So we've had our reservations about Article 13 for quite a while now. Much like CISPA and all that good stuff. That's been here in the United States, and essentially there are bad things on the internet. There are bad things that get shared. There are bad things that that you do not want happening. It's just overarching blanket censorship isn't usually the way it works. You need a much more targeted approach to that kind of content. But still, saying that by planning to support DNS over HTTPS, Mozilla is throwing a monkey wrench into the many ISPs' ability to search customers' traffic and filter traffic for government-mandated bad sites. And while some UK-based ISPs have shown public support for the DOH protocol, the vast majority have not. Honestly, this seems like a huge network security upgrade. I can't imagine, and really, the ones who are complaining and bellyaching that, hey, this isn't what I wanted, this isn't a good thing for consumers, they're probably the ones collecting the data on consumers. So they said that the jab from the ISPA UK Trade Association follows 2 months period in which Google and Mozilla have been criticized for their plans to support this in Chrome and in Firefox. So they said that the Internet Watch Foundation, a British watchdog group with a declared mission to minimize the availability of online child sexual abuse content, also criticized both Google and Mozilla, claiming that browser makers were ruining years of work in protecting the British public from abusive content by providing a new method of accessing illegal content. See, much like when you approach these conversations and you use a really heavy-handed, just throw a sledgehammer into the whole thing, saying, hey, the fact that you are doing that, we can't see what everyone is doing, suddenly everyone is going to be looking at, let's just say, terrorist propaganda, or we'll never catch those who are looking at terrorist propaganda. There are other ways to do it. It's just the ways that they're trying to do it weren't effective. And even if systems are in place that they think are effective, they have their own drawbacks. And namely those drawbacks being security for everyone. You can't hold back security, or the fact that everyone's browsing history or everyone's information is completely accessible to third parties. Be that advertisers, be that the ISPs themselves. No one gave them permission to be the, we're trying to, after the fact, make them the watchdogs of the internet. But that was never their role. Their role was to supply the connection, never to monitor their connection. And they've taken upon themselves, they've earned a lot of money trying to turn what it is that they monitor into a money-making machine through advertising and data collection. I'm just finding it really hard to work up any kind of sympathy that these people need to collect my data just so that this kind of content doesn't get out. I find that really hard. And again, there are other ways to do this. Now, this article goes on for just one more segment. I'm actually pretty interested in this one. The Tor conundrum, saying that, and we've talked about the Tor browser, the Tor Onion network. It's a very interesting system. We have an entire article written up about it on our website if you would like to know more about this. But and of course, it's all related to the dark web, things like that. But basically, Google and Mozilla support for DOH effectively narrows down to the same moral dilemma that surrounds the Tor project and the Tor network, saying that browser makers must now decide if it's worth supporting a tool that brings privacy improvements to millions at the expense of few that may have to suffer. And currently, DOH is not supported in the stable version of Chrome and Firefox. Google is still testing support, while Mozilla is completed a successful DOH test in Firefox and officially said it has plans to support the feature in the stable branch, but did not give a timeline. And so, obviously, with that being said, Mozilla is nominated for ISPA UK's Internet Villain Prize, which I think that's a badge of honor. Now, asking for a comment on its nomination, Mozilla sent back the following reply, quote, we are surprised and disappointed that an industry association for ISPs decided to misrepresent an improvement in decades-old internet infrastructure. Despite claims to the contrary, a more private DNS would not prevent the use of content filtering or parental controls in the UK. And that sounds like a completely reasonable response. Again, this helps improve security for millions and millions and millions of people. The only reason that you would not want end-to-end encryption, or even though this is just more encryption, is the fact that you heavily rely on what's not encrypted. So there you go. They said, quote, we have no current plans to enable DOH by default in the UK. However, we are currently exploring potential DOH partners in Europe to bring this important security feature to other Europeans more broadly. There you go. I think that's about the end of this particular article. Very, very well written, and just to call Mozilla the internet villain, that's a bit of a stretch. So, okay, there's the article. Let's go ahead and continue on. How about we talk about... And by the way, everyone in the chat room, hey, how you doing? Thank you so much for tuning in. Let's go ahead and talk about Samsung just for a moment, because I like numbers, and looks like we're about to receive the quarter two Samsung, quarterly profits. So Samsung isn't about to leave the doldrums anytime soon, saying the company warned that its profits were likely to slump in the second quarter, dropping about 56% year over year to roughly 6.5 trillion won, which is, by the way, if you weren't keeping track, $5.6 billion, if you are not up to date on your won to dollar ratio. They said that doesn't sound great, of course, but it could have been worse. A one-time payment from an unnamed customer buoyed Samsung's income. The company reportedly asked Apple for compensation after its OLED display orders didn't meet minimum levels, although that has not been confirmed. So potentially a large income, just a large payment, may have been Apple, compensating for the OLEDs. Now, with that being said, while Samsung hasn't explained what dragged down its quarter, its performance early in the year suffered primarily due to a drop in memory chip sales, while its increased profits over the first quarter suggest that the Galaxy S10 and A series launches helped, but weren't popular enough to reverse the trend. So the tech giant certainly faces a mixed summer, and while the Galaxy Note 10 launch is right around the corner, the Galaxy Fold's redesign has yet to get a release date. It's also facing legal trouble in Australia and France over advertising and labor practices. I saw a little bit about that. I didn't look into that. I need to obviously look into what Samsung did wrong in Australia with its advertising practices. But, and then of course, there's the simple matter of competitive pressure. Even with Huawei's troubles, Samsung still faces fiery rivalry from Chinese vendors and others that have historically hurt its sales. And unfortunately, that's just kind of how it is when you are one of the best-selling phone manufacturers out there, is that if you don't beat projections, you have everything to lose. Nothing to gain, everything to lose. You're already at the top, and everyone's waiting for you to get taken down. So Samsung, they're not turning a profit, but at the same time, I think they're going to be okay. And I'm really looking forward to the Samsung Galaxy S10 by the way, I think that's going to be one of the first phones from a major phone manufacturer with true 5G capability. Now, of course, you probably won't have access to a 5G network, but this is going to be one of your first chances to get one and potentially future-proof yourself to get 5G. Now, so there's that one. It's let's go ahead and talk about some of these other articles here. Okay, this one's for all of you Americans out there. Turns out, I didn't know this. Someone was keeping track. You have a new favorite screen size. You didn't even know it, but now you do. This just published a couple of minutes ago as of the time of this reading, and Research Group says that America's favorite television size is now a whopping 65 inches. You heard that right. Saying that they're getting cheaper, while 55-inch screens have stayed roughly the same price. Who knew? So let's go ahead. This is by Chris Holt and Gadget. And more Americans are scooping up 65-inch televisions, so much so that they're apparently the most popular screen size in the country. Market research company TrendForce reckons tumbling prices have led to the shift in the most common screen size. 65-inch screens have been getting cheaper in recent weeks, while prices on 55-inch displays have remained about the same. And yeah, obviously, for in the chat room kind of mentioned that he got a 55-inch. A 65-inch is still a huge television for a lot of people's, homes, and what have you. It's pretty hard fit a 65-inch in a lot of people's living rooms and things like that. But when the prices are there, hey, there's really no reason not to. So, one main reason for the seemingly odd trend is that manufacturers hoarded vast inventories of TVs ahead of a planned 25% tariff on Chinese products. If you've been following U.S. politics, that's a pretty big one. So, however, the U.S. and China cooled their trade war somewhat after a meeting between their leaders at the G20, and of course, the U.S. would not impose the tariffs for now. That left manufacturers with mountains of TVs that they had to shift. Reducing prices is a key way to clear out the backlog. Ladies and gentlemen, I guess you heard it here. If you're in the market for a new television, this is a pretty good time to buy because there's a surplus. Elsewhere, you might see a dip in prices on 32-inch displays this month, as those are said to be in oversupply as well. The report suggests that some manufacturers will increase the ratio of production of 55-inch displays as much as 4% year over year, and that could lead to a price drop in that size as well. But hey, overall, very, very good news. Obviously, if you want a television, it seems like now is a good time to buy it. Obviously, I think everyone really enjoys to get their technology during Black Friday or Cyber Monday or whatever it is that they're calling this week. But it seems like now would be a really good time to try that. Now, so that's the article. We have time for just one more before we go to commercial break. How about we discuss? Okay, how about we discuss this one? Mercedes and BMW. I know, who doesn't have one of those in their driveway? But even so, Mercedes and BMW, they are getting closer and closer to level 4 self-driving autonomy. If you are not familiar with what level 4 means, level 1 is essentially, well, actually, I don't know if it starts at level 0 or level 1, but essentially 0 or 1 autonomy is like nothing. There's nothing autonomous. I mean, the most autonomous thing in your car might as well just be your windshield wipers and maybe an automatic transmission. Level 2 is things that we've seen for quite a while now. They are everything from sensors and detectors that you're about to back into something, or just things that are going to tell you more information. But as the driver in a level 2 autonomous car, you still have to do all of the reactions yourself. Level 3 autonomy, when it comes to self-driving cars, is things like auto braking, lane assist, I would say cruise control to some extent, or at least speed control, one that you can flip on and it will keep your lane, keep you from hitting the car in front of you. But overall, the driver still at points needs to take control of the car. I think level 3 is about what a Tesla, you might think of a Tesla. Level 4 though, level 4 self-driving car systems are just that. They are fully autonomous. The driver should ideally never have to touch the wheel of a vehicle to get from point A to point B. That's the dream. That's the goal. If you can get to level 4, you will be a very, very rich company because, hey, you did it. You made cars automated. And a Grand Caravan has level -1 autonomy. Tell me about it. Now, BMW and Mercedes have started working together on an autonomous cars earlier this year, and now they have optimistic plans to deliver them. The automakers announced that they've developed level 4 self-driving cars that can handle freeway driving chores without human intervention. And though a driver will still need to be at the wheel, and of course they just say that because legally, that is probably the best way out of any kind of lawsuits. They could say that, hey, the cars do everything, and then if something unforeseen happens and the car takes a nosedive, then yeah, they can always say, hey, the driver should have been there to catch the wheel. The problem is that drivers are going to rely more and more on these autonomous features, and with that, they're going to pay less and less attention. They're going to start reading books. They're going to start watching movies. They're going to just completely occupy their mind otherwise. Because think about it, if you're driving on a highway for 2 hours, yeah, when you're driving, you have to hold the wheel, manage your gas, or, just kind of keep in your lane. If the car does everything, you are literally staring out a window for 2 hours. The human brain will not take it. The human brain will not accept it. You have to keep yourself entertained, and trust me, looking at the road is not going to be one of them. Now, such vehicles will include driver assist and automated parking systems and go on sale to the public by 2024. Mark your calendars. 2024. That's when BMW and Mercedes are opting to have level 4 self-driving cars. Now, they say that to pull this off, BMW Mercedes parent Daimler will share about 1,200 autonomous driving experts, often in mixed teams, based at BMW's automated driving campus here, near Munich, and 2 of Daimler's self-driving test centers. BMW plans to release a level 3 self-driving car in 2021. Level 4 Autobahn vehicles will be in 2024. Everyone, music means we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. More Computer America right after this. Everyone, stay tuned.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. That's 800-215-4461.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
And welcome back to the Computer America Show. We are 32 minutes past the hour, and if you are just joining us, we are, of course, doing computer and technology news for the hour. Everyone, hey, again, hopefully you're having a great Friday. Everything about 4th of July went off without a hitch. Everyone came back with all their digits intact, and you are ready for more Computer America. Now, let's go ahead and continue on here. By the way, if you missed any part of today's show, wherever podcasts are heard, go ahead and check out Computer America. Type in our name, and we should pop right up. Just that simple. Now, let's go ahead and continue on, just finishing up this, this autonomous vehicle one. And by the way, that's going to be a massive shift. As soon as any car manufacturer makes a well-recognized and completely level 4 self-driving vehicle, the pre-orders for that will be through the roof. And trust me, it won't be from individuals like you and me. The pre-orders are going to be in the hundreds of thousands at a time, and they're going to be from companies like Uber and Tesla, Lyft, Ford, all these companies that makes that manage car fleets will just be wrestling over who gets access to these cars. So you can bet they're coming, and we probably in the next decade or so, we will quickly see the shift away from consumer vehicles to vehicles as a service. And as weird as that sounds, it's coming. So not many times do I honestly say predictions here on the program and try to ask people to truly believe me. But as soon as an individual company like Uber or Lyft can manage 150,000 vehicles automatically and just have people come and pay to use the vehicles, and to the consumer, it's much more affordable because they won't have to actually pay for the car. They won't have to maintain the car. They won't have to have room in their house to hold a car. The benefits just outweigh the negatives when it comes to actually owning a vehicle versus having unlimited access to vehicles. So there you go. And so there we go. So let's go ahead and continue on. I think our next, this article is pretty funny to me. No offense, China. You're full of weirdness, but this one, you're very much like the rest of us. And who knew this was a problem? I guess it doesn't really happen much outside the U.S. because we just don't really have facial recognition to the point where we're paying for things with it. We have things like Apple Pay and Samsung Pay and, all these other RFC and PayPal ways to pay for things. But America doesn't really pay for items with their face, I guess, like they do in Alipay. And Alipay, of course, being an extension of Alibaba, huge online retailer. And I guess in physical locations, you can actually use your face to identify yourself and then pay for items. Here's where it comes in. China's Alipay will add beauty filters when you pay with your face. That's right. A recent poll found that people think next-gen payment systems make them look ugly. Ladies and gentlemen, I have really hard news for you. Except for anyone who is, of course, a listener of Computer America. You are all the most fabulous, beautiful people I have ever met. But, a lot of people are ugly. It's the sad truth of it. And if you think that the technology does, don't get me wrong. Technology is not flattering. The cameras are put in bad places. It makes you look like you have a double chin. I have never taken a good Costco or Sam's Club photo with those little webcams that they have there. Trust me, webcams in general make you look ugly. You got to have a good one. But with that being said, it can't work miracles. It can't. You have to be comfortable with who you are. But I guess they're trying anyways. They're saying, they're putting beauty filters on people's faces. Here we go. So we all know how startling it can be to accidentally open a front-facing camera and find your own unassuming face looking back at you. Now, imagine if you saw that image every time you made a purchase. And in China, Alibaba's e-wallet affiliate Alipay will soon add beauty filters when you pay with its facial recognition system, saying that the changes come shortly after a Sina Technology poll found that about 60% of respondents think next-gen payment systems make them look ugly. And Alipay announced the update on Weibo yesterday, and the company plans to bring the feature to retail stores within a week. Here's why I think this is so ridiculous. The point of facial recognition when it comes to paying for things is that you automatically determine that you are you. You don't have to flash a license. You don't have to prove with some kind of PIN that you are indeed the person making the purchase and you should have access to your account. Everything's automated. So the amount of people who are actually looking at your horrible selfies that Alibaba's e-wallet program is taking of you, there's probably no one actually taking pictures or looking at those pictures. Sure, they're probably being embedded, and let's face it, China is China. They're probably being collected just so that they have an updated archive of what everyone looks like. But overall, no one really cares what you look like except for yourself. And apparently 60% of ourselves really think it makes us look ugly. So let's go ahead and let's go ahead and talk about some might worry about living in a world where we're constantly being digitally altered. Others might have qualms about our obsession with beauty and looking good in photos, but the filters might appeal to anyone who's ever taken a bad passport or license photo. Beauty filters could also give companies an advantage if you have the option to make an early morning coffee run to a store that will filter away your sleep deprivation. There's a chance that you'll opt for that. Regardless of where you stand, the growing popularity of filters is undeniable. And that's really all this is. Anyone out there who's used Snapchat or Facebook Messenger or any other messaging platforms, filters are everywhere. To be able to real time actually make changes to your face, that's not going away anytime soon. Again, I just found it funny that people decided that this was the problem that Alipay needed to tackle, was that I just don't look good enough in these automated systems. Help me. And there you go. So beauty filters are coming to that. Who knew? Okay, so there's our article. Let's go ahead, and because this one is so loosely, and emphasis on loosely, related, let's go ahead and talk about it. This is by MIT Technology Review. Yeah, MIT Technology Review. London Police's facial recognition system gets it wrong about 81% of the time. Now, before you say, wow, 81%, that's horrible, I will say that is a marked improvement. Like, that is light years of improvement compared to what it used to be. Because I actually remember the same facial recognition system just a couple of years ago was getting false positives about 96% of the time. And don't get me wrong, 81%, still atrocious. That's 4 out of 5 people are misidentified. That's pretty useless when it comes to actually identifying who you want, because 19% of the time you get it right. But if you're looking for one particular person, odds are, hey, you might have a better chance just sitting out there on a street corner and just kind of holding up a photo to people's faces. You might do it a little bit faster. 81% is a marked improvement over 96%. Now, the first independent evaluation of the Metropolitan Police's use of facial recognition warned it is highly possible that the system would be ruled unlawful if challenged in court. Yeah, who knew that constant surveillance could potentially have some kind of legal ramifications? And if it's not the police, then who's even thinking about this? Now, the new, I should say here, London's police force has conducted 10 trials of facial recognition since 2016 using the Japanese company's NEC's NeoFace technology. And they conclude that the system is 81% inaccurate, or in other words, the vast majority of people it flags for the police are not on a wanted list. They found that of 42 matches, only 8 were confirmed to be correct. As facial recognition becomes more ubiquitous, there's a growing concern about the gender and racial bias embedded into many systems. With that in mind, San Francisco banned its use in public agencies last month, and that doesn't do anything to stop it from proliferating in the private sector, but at least it might mean that it can't be wielded by authorities with the power to arrest you. Facial recognition is coming, and that is unfortunate. There needs to be legislation and regulation controlling it and its and its use. Of course, Fort in the chat room kind of mentioned this, that he doesn't really trust it. Trust me, a lot of people don't trust it. It's just when you aren't given a choice. I mentioned this when we talked to a lawyer that was on the show about this exact kind of ethical thing, and that was just a couple of weeks ago. I mentioned that I'm in a facial recognition system. I'm in the largest facial recognition system in the country. Why? Because I was born in Florida, and Florida shares its driver's license photos with the facial recognition system, so that if they ever need to identify anyone, they can just pull from driver's license photos. Yeah, it's I've never done anything wrong in my life, and I can be plucked out of a crowd as easy as anything. Is that right? Is that legal? Is that lawful? We need to have that conversation. It's just right now we are operating in that beautiful, beautiful tech sphere of, well, it's not illegal what we're doing, but yeah, it probably would be if anyone actually cared to look into it. So there you go. And actually, with that article, and just saw this, this article off to the side as well. Did not have time for it. This one just came out a day or two ago. This has to do with CRISPR. And if you don't know about CRISPR, we already went over about 2 babies in China that were edited with CRISPR so that they wouldn't develop a certain disease. Some scientists went rogue, quote unquote. I'm sure he went rogue. Sarcasm, by the way. He went rogue and tried to edit 2 babies to see if they would be negative for a certain kind of genetic disease. Yeah, we still know the results of that because the babies' identities were kept secret, obviously, and I think that they were confiscated by the Chinese government. Well, we now know that there is a 3rd baby that has been edited. And this is from MIT Technology Review as well. But a 3rd baby may have already been born in China, saying that another genetically edited baby is due, but the world may never learn of its birth if the Chinese government decides to keep it secret. Who knew? Yeah, so the 2nd International Summit of Human Genome Editing, held in Hong Kong last November, was meant to debate the pros and cons of genetically engineering humans. Instead, the proceedings were turned upside down by the revelation that He Jiankui, a Chinese biophysicist, had already done it. Here we go again. Technology, asking for forgiveness before asking for permission. He gone ahead and edited the DNA of twin girls with the powerful gene modification tool called CRISPR. Then the Chinese scientists sprang to a further surprise and the shocked gene editing experts. A 2nd Chinese woman, he said, was pregnant with yet another CRISPR baby. An early pregnancy test had confirmed it. Here we go. Saying that 3rd CRISPR baby is now due to be born at any moment if he or she hasn't come crying into the world already. 7 months have passed since that summit, and hey, well, according to a Stanford University physician and ethicist who was in regular communication, there's the word, with He starting in 2017 and is familiar with the timeline of events. Hurlburt knows the day that the 3rd baby was conceived, but won't make it public because of the risk of the information could identify the parents and the child. So there you go. So why all this matters? We're not going to go through the entire article. It's pretty interesting. We'll include it in the show notes. But the point is, there's not one gene that you can point to and say this is the problem gene. And yes, it's too late to well, actually, I take it back. It's not too late to edit anyone. And by the way, the appeal of CRISPR is that you could edit someone's DNA after the fact as well. It doesn't have to take effect when someone is born. It can happen after someone is already out. And essentially, you could fix or at least cure genetic diseases in everyday people. This is not just a technology for the babies of tomorrow. This is a technology for everyone if it is done properly. The problem is that we have this really cool gadget. We have this really cool medical device in CRISPR. The problem is that our understanding is so limited as to what the genome actually does. We've sequenced the whole thing. We know what it's going, we know what every gene is capable of, or at least most of. We claim that a vast majority is quote unquote junk DNA that doesn't make any difference. But it turns out things like, let's just take a person's height, for instance. There's no one height gene. There's not just a knob in someone's cells that you can just kind of crank from, 5'10" to 6'2". There's no one gene that controls that. There's not a switch you can hit that says, give this person heart problems in the future or not. And you can't just flip that. 98% of your genome controls something like, 98% of your genome goes into determining a person's height. Again, it's not just one. It's wide-ranging parts of your genome that control everything from your diseases that you're going to get, from your ability to handle fat, to stress, to heart disease, to anything like that. You need to be able to edit a lot of DNA, and that's just so far beyond our capabilities. We are decades from being able to use this technology in the right way. This is going to take a lot of experimentation. So that's the problem, is that when you have Chinese scientists essentially saying, we have done it, we don't know what is going to happen to these kids. If they're simply targeting a certain type of, let's say, genetic disease by whatever system that they tried to do, or whatever system that they tried to alter, what are the ramifications of that? What was actually depending on XYZ when they tried to change ABC? And there's a very good chance, if you're talking about the ethics of doing this to babies, we don't know if this person just made those kids developmentally retarded. We don't know if they just made these kids susceptible to a bunch of other diseases. We just don't know what's going to happen to these kids. And there's a very strong chance it's not going to be a good thing. So I've been trying to keep a close eye on what happens here. We're probably never going to know about who the kids are, but I'm very interested to see if they actually develop if they actually develop into perfectly happy, healthy babies. That's it's something worth looking into. And to answer some of the questions in the chat room, too late to edit your brother. Again, it's you can totally and completely edit genes in a healthy living person. Can I edit 150 pounds off myself? Yes, there's actually a chance if they were able to use CRISPR correctly, they'd be able to determine, or they'd be able to affect how a body deals with stress, which is a huge part in how calories are stored in the body. They'd be able to turn up your metabolism. They'd be able to, make you less hungry or make your body more efficient in dealing with the calories that you do give it. There's a lot of things that CRISPR can do, and obesity is one, the least of what they could do. It's just, I don't know. There's, like you said, this sounds like a bad idea, and the answer is it's because it is. It's cutting edge science, and to do it on people is very troublesome. I mean, let's face it. At best, they grow up to be perfectly healthy, normal people, but there's a pretty good chance that they could become things like infertile. And that's something that a Chinese scientist has determined that these girls are going to be, as part of an experiment. And is that fair? Is that right? We don't know. Science is full of just horror stories like that, and this could prove to be yet another one. So there you go. Okay. Let's go ahead and continue on here. How about something more fun? Something a bit more on the lighter side, because that was kind of heavy. I won't lie to you, that was kind of heavy. Let's go ahead and talk about gloves. Yes, gloves. But these are really cool gloves, I promise. These gloves turn sign language into audible speech. Pretty cool. And really, when you think about deaf people, hard of hearing people, American Sign Language, it's pretty hard to understand. But as long as you know that you're signing the right thing, this could be a massive improvement. So this is from Local10.com, saying that 72% of families don't sign with their deaf children, which is really hard to believe. But Driven by love for his niece and knowledge of the struggles people who are deaf have been trying to communicate, Roy Alela came up with gloves that can turn sign language into audible speech. You can definitely see where this could be life-changing for some people, as the article mentions. And you could see where someone who is maybe deaf and can only communicate through sign language could then communicate with the rest of us who do not know American Sign Language. So there are more than 1 million deaf people in America who use American Sign Language as their primary source of communication, and 70 million deaf people worldwide use the same type of sign language according to the Communication Service for the Deaf. If the number doesn't sound astounding, this will: 72% of families don't sign with their deaf children. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure that they love their kids as much as anyone else. I'm sure that they appreciate them and they would do anything for them. But not being able to communicate with your own kid, that is a shocking number. 72% of families don't sign with their deaf children. Who knew? But here's the kicker. If you are deaf, sign language is sometimes your only form of communication, and your communication with the world is limited. Where a 25-year-old Kenyan man, Alela, who works for Intel and tutors data science at Oxford University, invented Sign.io, which are smart gloves that convert sign language movements into audible speech. Saying that, quote, "My niece wears the gloves, pairs them with her phone or mine, then starts signing, and I'm able to understand what she's saying. Like all sign language users, she's very good at lip reading, so she doesn't need me to sign back." Very, very cool. Saying that the gloves have flex sensors stitched into the fingers. If you're watching the video portion, you can see an image of it here. Very, very cool. And yeah, saying that the gloves have flex sensors stitched into each finger, and the sensors are paired with a phone app via Bluetooth. And they also develop the app. The sensors process the bend of the finger that is being used to sign. So through the app, the user can set the gender, the pitch of the vocalization, and the language. So obviously, if you are if you're a little girl and you would rather not sound like Morgan Freeman, then you can set it that way. And they said that he said that the results have an average of about 93% accuracy, which is pretty good. That's about missing about 1 in every 20 words. That'll get you pretty far. Now, after winning an award and prize money from the American Society of Mechanical Engineers, Alela is investing his winnings in honing in and trying to make the vocal predictions even more accurate, which is going to be super good, and I'm glad that he won an award for it. Saying, quote, "I was trying to envision how my niece's life would be if she had the same opportunities as everyone else in education, employment, and all aspects of life." They said that the gloves can be packaged any way a user wants, as a princess glove or Spider-Man glove, for example. Saying, and just like we're seeing with prosthetics for legs and limbs and things like that, no longer are we just trying to act like these impairments are non-existent. Now we're trying to draw attention and say, hey, look, even though I may be deaf, even though I may be missing a leg, it doesn't matter. I have this really cool thing, and I can do whatever it is that you do. And he said that Alela believes that the gloves can help people worldwide. And, quote, "When it affects you personally, you see how hard people in life have it, and that's why I've strived to develop this project to completion." So there you go. And it's just super cool to see someone who saw a problem with deaf people being able to communicate with those who don't use sign language. It seems like a skill that you always want to learn. You want to learn American Sign Language so that just that one day it'll come in handy. Luckily, I've never been in that situation where I've seen someone struggling to communicate. But this just like the automatic translation apps that we have on our phones, or getting on our phones, they hopefully advancements such as these will solve that problem before I guess I need to stop being lazy. So there you go. So, looking at the time, we're just about out of time. Some of the articles that we did not get to include everything from a plane has fully and truly autonomously landed itself. And this is from from a story in Germany. And when I say that, I mean there was no information on the ground. There was no special sensors. It was a small plane. I'm not talking jumbo jetliner, but a small aircraft was able to touch down completely autonomously, which is awesome. Saying that Apple will soon ditch the butterfly keyboard design. That's right, they're moving to scissor switches. Welcome to the rest of the world, Apple. Nuclear reactors, we got a story about that. And last but not least, Wikipedia co-founder slams Mark Zuckerberg, Twitter, and the appalling internet in general, which is always fun. Everyone, we're about out of time. I want to thank you so much for tuning in. It's been a lot of fun talking to you here. A lot of great stories. And as always, hey, I just like doing this for you guys. It's thank you so much for tuning in to the show. Everyone listening to us on IRN, thank you so much. Everyone tuning in on the podcast, love you too. And last but not least, for those of you in the chat room and watching live, hey, you're the best. Everyone, thank you so much for tuning into the program. If you want to catch us Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern, we should be on every day next week with lots of great guests, lots of great news, and more. Have a great day. Thank you so much. And until next time, have a great one. Bye-bye, everyone.